So hello everyone. It's very nice that we're doing another live. It's going to be mostly me and Lena today. Amy's having some technological difficulties, but she'll try and join later. So what we're trying to do today is briefly end the year reflection, and we'll talk about the episodes that came out for Charity Tuesday. So for those who are not aware, Charity Tuesday is a series. It was a little bit of a pilot experiment this year. What we tried to do was 3 Tuesday episodes before Christmas Day, which happens on a Tuesday, right, Lena? That was the reason why we did Charity Tuesday, right? No, it's happened on a Thursday because then it's today, yes, of course. And we interviewed 2 charities, and we talked about different issues. So in my case, I interviewed an Italian charity that supports cats and dogs and other animals, so they collect funds for them. They look for a forever home. They help with vet expenses. They're called Coraccanem. You can find the episode on our YouTube channel. We interviewed Virginia Agnoni. She's one of the co-founders. But mostly with her, we talked not only about the charity, but about living in a child-free world. So she chooses to be child-free, and she explained the reasons why, as well as within the climate change and sustainability discussion, why being child-free could be an option, and etc. Amy interviewed Food and Fruits, I believe that's the name, of the South African charity. Lena, you were aware of the charity?
No, but the charity was called Food and Trees, and so they're involved in a lot of local projects, yeah. And she was, speaking about a range of things of how growing food can be much more than just growing food be really a part of especially sustainable livelihoods, and a solution maybe for a larger group of people, because it can be quite accessible, and you can use it as a livelihood strategy partly, or income enhancing, and of course to grow your own food.
Yes, so that episode is also on YouTube, so I think it was very engaging, and it gave a chance to talk about the importance of other valuables such as food in our climate change discussion. And so for today, we wanted to talk about as well what our plans for next year. So where do you see us go next year, Lena, with Rethinking Climate?
Well, I think first of all, we definitely want to... Oh, I'm getting weird background noises, but I hope it's fine. So for next year, we wanted to, of course, first of all, speak to a wider range of people than we have. So continue working on the podcast series. And you also mentioned, for example, carbon offsetting. So this would be an interesting theme to explore maybe at the beginning of the year, especially if travel is starting up again. Like now with COVID, there's been quite a lot of restrictions, but it probably will start up again. So for example, explore some more personal options for mitigating your carbon emissions, and what are the tools that are already available, because I think that's quite a big thing as well, because there are a lot of steps you can take, but what are actually the tools that are at your disposal to take this? So for carbon offsetting, and maybe you want to continue.
Yes, so what Lena's saying, we participated we were lucky to attend a conference a couple of days ago called the Climate Social Forum. We posted some photographs and live on our Facebook page as well. And we had a chance exactly to debate about this, and to debate that we would like to investigate some of the carbon off-grid calculators and so on, and try them out and investigate the questions that are asked possibly could be improved. They could be some other that are instead not added, could be added, and so on. It would be nice to not only interview more people, but also investigate on our own a little bit what they preach to be environmental and help you make better decisions, but could be improved. Or we could provide even feedback or suggestions. And why not provide feedback for people who follow us as well? So we could provide what has been the best experience for us in matter of apps or calculators that we've used. So we're also trying out an app, and we'll provide more information once we test it out a little bit. That should give you an idea of how you progress when you add in your activities every day of things you've done, like buying a bottle of glass water, glass bottled water, or other activities of sort that should be more environmentally friendly and the such. And this app in particular also tells you how many times a day you should breathe when you're stressed out, and any tips making you feel better. So next year we're going to try out a bit this and expand what we do in the podcast. So Lena, next year we're going to also publish your first episode that you recorded with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit of a preview of that?
Yeah, sure. So I interviewed a lady who's actually a co-founder of a solar panel company, but they do a lot more than just selling solar panels. So they're really actively trying to speed up the as they call the Rooftop Revolution. So placing more and more solar panels in the Netherlands on roofs, because there's quite a lot of empty roofs that can be used much more efficiently. So she also provides some tips for students on how you can kind of green your energy, even if you're living in a student house, for example, where you do not necessarily have the power to, for example, put solar panels on the roof, as this can be a costly endeavor, especially if you're only staying there for the short run. So some personal tips for our listeners. And then she's also involved in a foundation that is actually, in Dutch, it's called Stichting Schooldakrevolutie, and it translates to, School Roof Revolution. So they're placing a lot of solar panels on school roofs because these take up quite a lot of empty space. And simultaneously, they're turning this into a learning experience for, young students, providing them with the opportunity to learn about climate change and renewable energies from a young age onwards. And this is quite interesting because then often they go home and they actually tell their parents about it. So youth education is definitely more than just youth education. It can also be a way to kind of bring sustainability to the dinner table and then maybe influence other family members. And then she was also talking about how she is helping to set up a climate citizens panel for the Netherlands. So in France, for example, there's been a climate citizen council that has been set up to involve the public more in the decision-making about climate laws and policies. But I won't spoil too much. So if you're interested in this, make sure to watch out for the next episode. And this will be the first podcast to come out in January.
Yes, we have quite a few under our sleeve, I can dare say. We have a little bit of a schedule planned, which is, I think, a good news if we considered, how far we went ahead. Again, we were saying in our previous reflection how we expected fewer episodes, also less of an impact in the way we did instead. So I'm very glad instead that happened, and I'm very glad that somebody found what we did and do interesting and engaging. So any feedback as well that you have, we'll be checking, by the way, our Facebook live to sort of, if you have any questions, please go ahead and add them. Amy's been trying to connect, so hopefully she'll make it. And she also wrote in the comments of Facebook, so she's sort of with us in the comment section, but she'll try. What else can we add? I believe that we can do so much more next year as well. If we have to reflect back on the episodes that we recorded, I think that what I've learned the most is that there's still a little bit of a common language when people speak about environmental issues. And I think that comes with human nature, and it's needed. We have to speak, have common words that we use when we speak about same terminology over and over again. But what I would like to see more from experts is a more brutal answer. Many people are sort of scared that what they say could be misunderstood or maybe not shared. But I think that we need a little bit more of that in the world if we want to go to a more honest direction about how we have to improve. So I look forward to that. Again, we have some of a schedule with so many experts who would be willing to interview with us. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And is there any particular comment you want to add, Lena, maybe?
Actually, yeah, just adding to that, I think what I really notice is that very often the podcasts go way beyond the questions that we ask. So going into much greater detail. So for example, I believe her name, Robin. So Robin, who Amy interviewed for Food and Trees for Africa, she actually started going into really important issues that go much further than just growing crops for food food generation or as kind of a social activity and contributing to sustainability at the local level. Namely, for example, it also touches on issues of inequality that are deeply rooted in society, especially in South Africa, for example, and into issues of water security and particularly insecurity. So I think the podcasts are a really great way to explore issues further and really go into the different nuances, because so often the picture really isn't black and white. And I think that's why it's so great to kind of take the time for communication, because there's a lot to be said. And I think when people can kind of tell the personal stories, it's a lot easier to go into these nuances and touch on different angles and maybe not really go off track of a topic, but really go into depth that otherwise it's not possible to discuss them in, or that, for example, a short news article can capture. So I'm hoping we can capture more of these perspectives next year.
Definitely go also in depth about exactly what you're saying. Articles have to be brief. Articles also frequently maybe have to touch upon a specific part of the news, but don't maybe go in depth, which I'm so surprised how it seems quite a new and a bit of a niche argument when we think about the relationship that the environment has in so many parts of our lives, starting from our own health to water scarcity, like you were saying, and so on. And I find it that many people are surprised when that connection is made. Why do you think is that?
Sorry, can you make the question? I missed the last part because of connection issues. So make what exactly?
If you had any thoughts about why some people find it particular that there is connection with climate change and the environment in many other parts of our lives, like our health or water scarcity and so on, or even migration.
To make the connections.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, because initially they haven't really been made that clear. So for example, in the health field, what is really emerging now is planetary health and the field of One Health. And this is really taking into consideration all the different aspects. So environmental health, chemical pollution, especially air pollution on health. And yeah, I think just growing awareness in general. I think specifically in research, always there's a lot to be researched, but there always have to be focus areas, also for funding reasons. And I think that previously maybe there have been more kind of like silo approaches, and now this is really blending together. I think this has probably also come with for example, with the advent of the SDGs, where it was really realized in opposition to the Millennium Development Goals, which were up to 2015, that we really need more integrated approaches and that there are quite a lot of overlaps if we want to tackle all these issues because they're so interconnected. And I think that's with human health as well. So often the impacts are not black and white. So for example, air pollution does not only affect health in one way. It causes lung cancer, but it does a lot more than that. So just taking that as an example already, it's quite multifaceted. And yeah, I think that also goes with water security and insecurity, for example. So you have different environmental factors, but you also have different ways in which these can be exacerbated. So if you were to draw a mind map, it would probably not just be on one page, but if you wanted to consider all factors, you'd probably end up with the 20 pages glued next to each other of different connections you can make. But I think that now with COVID being a zoonotic disease, there has definitely been a lot more attention already for how everything is interconnected, and that we really need the holistic picture also to prevent future pandemics, that we need to preserve biodiversity, but it goes beyond that. There's important questions that need to be asked about wildlife trade, but it's also beyond just preserving specific species. It's also about preserving their habitats. And then that raises a lot of questions, for example, about conservation. So how can we integrate environmental objectives with sustainable development objectives? And this always needs to be really tailored to the local context. So yeah, I'm curious to go to see, maybe we can get some interesting perspectives on this from some speakers next year. And do you still have anything to add to this question that you asked?
Yes. I always wonder. How hard it can be to have this kind of conversation with people who assume that just because the land belongs to nobody, then you can just build things on it and take space to natural beings like species, animals, plants, particular flora and fauna that are still there, that are there and were there at the beginning, and there's a reason why. And I believe that in its all the difficulties and all its negative impact that the pandemic has had, as you were saying, still there is a quality that has made us reflect about how the more we conquer, we can say, quote unquote, conquer, then the more we're causing issues that will impact us as well. On a side, it also makes me a little, I guess, personally sad. One of the issues I've always had since I was a child, probably, is that when we have the animal rights conversation in particular, and that's the reason why I picked Virginia in my Charity Tuesday interview, was because we always have to justify why there is a need to save a species habitat, instead of just saying they deserve to live there, why not? And I believe that I would like to investigate this a little more next year. And I'll ask you another question. So Amy wrote in the comments, what part of the sustainability problem you feel we haven't yet spoken about, or we should speak about more?
So I think there's quite a lot, actually, but so one of the topics I would be interested to explore more is maybe adaptation, and also in cities, because the environment, so it goes a lot beyond, for example, rural areas and national parks. And actually, I think COVID has also really increased awareness about this, because people spending time in cities. So these are actually really important environments as well. So maybe we could explore more how cities will look like post-COVID and how cities are adapting to climate change. And being particularly interested in sustainable development, cities are interesting as well, because they can kind of also become ecosystems for innovation and, for example, urban adaptation with changing climate. So, for example, how parks can be used to mitigate flooding. I would be interested in exploring that further. And how about you? And maybe Amy also, maybe you can also check if Amy has said anything about what she would like to further explore, because I cannot see the chat right now.
If you can just write in the comments or on WhatsApp, and we'll send a message from you. Her Wi-Fi has not been helping today, which is very ironic. But yes. So what I would like to see more. I think we've all understood, especially you and Amy, because I keep repeating it to both of you. What I really like to figure out is the way we understand the problem more than the problem itself. So I think the three of us really match well because of our backgrounds and personal interest in this project. We provide different kind of questions. So it's about being informed. So of course, every podcast should talk about, like you said, adaptation. I really would like to touch more in depth about migration and other similar topics. But what I really like to go in depth is not only a specific topic, but rather the way we discuss it, and just, again, find more of a straightforward approach of where are we looking at our future. So I believe I was taking a course a couple of years ago, and I was studying about climate refugees, and it was interesting to see how the UN hadn't yet defined well the term climate refugees, and that was I was surprised. I was expecting to have this basis of what climate refugee is. We do have the science, we do have the information, we're quite developed, in the issues we're looking at. So I was quite expecting to see that more developed, even information-wise and research-wise, when it comes to climate refugees and the climate crisis in that sense. So maybe that's another topic I would like to study more and see what experts have to say about it. I definitely would like to investigate a little bit about the opposite side of the coin, we can say. So those who have a little more extreme opinions about the climate crisis, those again who don't really believe in the science, or those who, and I would like, for instance, there's a large religious community who have their own opinions about the climate crisis. It'd be really, really interesting to see possibly their side of the story, their side of the scientific background, because large, some people in the religious community also are experts, they're scientists. And so I really find that because there have been already books published on the connection between religion and the climate and the way we're looking at our future, it would be really nice to interview somebody who represents both worlds and can tell us a little bit more about this connection and how that could impact as well the way we look at about an issue, and also maybe investigate why do we have to do that? Why do we have to have an opinion about something that should be just science? And I think that's sort of my question. So let's check if Amy left any comments, and if you want to add anything, Lena, please do so.
At this point, I don't have anything to add anymore.
So
did Amy still leave?
So Amy wrote this. She wrote. So Amy wrote. Lena touched on it already, but I want to focus on how the climate, social, and political issues are interconnected, and how we can improve our communication about these issues to help people understand the role they play in these issues, and how everyone has the potential to influence their small and greater communities. I feel like that's also very important about communities, about in my small way, how can I do that?
And taking action at the local scale.
Yeah. So another thing could be, so Amy also wrote, with the new year coming and many people being in lockdown, it's also a good time to reflect on the personal changes. So I think that could be our next topic. So Lena, how do you feel like you studying also about sustainability, or just the idea of growing older and working at this project as Rethinking Climate? How do you feel like you can improve your own part in this mission to fight the climate crisis?
I think that especially this year, I've really started recognizing, really looking, I think, critically at my consumption patterns and really trying to, for example, shop more plastic free. And these are small steps, but I think if you really dedicate time to them, they can easily become a part of your routine. So I think I'm going to continue working on that next year. And in terms of studying the environment, I think, just keep on exploring different angles of the discussion, because this discussion will continue to grow, and hopefully also a lot of the important summits and conference of the party, so the COPs, will resume next year. And I'm curious to see what will be on the table, especially in terms of green recovery, and to continue learning about that. How about you?
I think I'll read Amy's, because I very much agree with what she says. So she says she wants to spend more time outdoors, and I dare say that's something we've all wanted, especially with this pandemic. Lena and I quite spent doing the same thing for the first half of the year, because we interned in the same place, so we were remotely working in our apartments like the rest of the world practically. So definitely I would like to spend more time outdoors when I can, even not close to anybody, just in nature. And one of my favorite places is the ocean, the sea, any water-based body of water. Animals, seeing around there, I find it very fascinating and relaxing. And another thing that Amy wants to do is reduce her own footprint, and wants to be more vocal and challenging the people around her. That is something I've been trying to do a lot. So what I will try to do instead is maybe do it in a way that it's more effective, I can dare say. So we have a little bit of a guest. We have Domenico with us. Maybe he can tell us. So Domenico, he organized with other amazing people the Climate Social Forum that we participated, telling our story of Rethinking Climate. So Domenico will have him in a few last round of this live session tell us about Climate Social Forum and contribute about why is it important, why the forum was important. And Domenico, to you the word. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks to you for inviting me. Nice to see you back. We as like organizing team of Climate Social Forum made this event during the last week. The event started in March in our minds, and was supposed to be like a civil society reaction to the lack of international negotiation for this year. Of course, due to the pandemic, the COVID-19, the COP26 was postponed. But in our opinion, was important to continue to foster the dialogue among the COVID crisis, but also the climate crisis and all the crises that are intertwined in a way, And we decided to create this virtual agora of where activists, experts, and climate passionate can gather and join and discuss online, as we haven't the possibility to talk it by physical, and that was like a nice experience last week, and also you from Rethinking Climate very like participate and also contribute a lot. So thank you very much, first of all, for your contribution and presence and participation. Yeah, definitely was like a very nice and challenging experience, and it brings to like new friends, new also I don't know relationship with people all around the world, because finally we started like in our city, that's Milan, but the thing was spread then I can say globally, because we were from India, Pakistan, Mexico, and so on, and was very like an experience that demonstrates how if the forces are gathered, the forces are joined, also the very most impossible things or like very difficult things can be done. Our motto was alone we have problem, together we have solution. And finally we ran out with a nice experience. It doesn't it's not stopped still, because we have to finish and refine the final documents of the Climate Social Forum, because a part of the event and all the conferences, roundtable that we organize online, our commitment was to create 3 documents with the inputs also of the participants and so on, to address proposals and ideas on 12 tracks that we call climate action paths, for the 3 governance levels that are local, national, and global. And so now we are closing up, like we are wrapping up all the content and so on, in order to give also an output from this experience. Yeah, definitely was a very nice experience. And also thanks to the collaboration of all the volunteers all around the world that have done, and also you have been part of that. And so again, thank you. And that's it. Yeah.
So we're going to provide more information about the Climate Social Forum, so you can see our interview, you can see our interventions, you can contribute with any feedback. So I'll read Amy's final words, and then you and I can close. So she likes to thank everybody who supported the first few months, and I share with her this message. And if you do have any ideas for this project, any feedback, any groups to collaborate, like Domenico was saying, the more, the merrier, the better, and the more connected we are. Again, this is a project of 3 young people who just want to make our voices heard in a small way, in our unique way, possibly trying just to bring a better future for ourselves and for the future generations as well. So thank you very much, and I wish everybody happy holidays. Lena, if you want to close.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for following along, and we hope you stay tuned and continue to be with us throughout the next year, and watch out for the first podcast, which will come early in January. So yeah, happy holidays. Stay safe as always. Thank you for tuning in.
Domenico.
Bye.